I used to live across the street from this little girl. And all of the homies used to say that she had an open kitchen. She would just let anybody and everybody come into her house. And as a matter of fact, her mama was the same way. We was only like 14, but she was already well into her 30s. And she still went and let one of my best friends feel like a man. So this little girl was only watching and listening to everything her mama was doing. Things probably happened to her that I can't even imagine. Stuff that I don't even want to try to fathom. And all of them deep hurts and deep wounds led her to fall deep into prostitution. They say she almost killed somebody. I think she might have got charged with a stabbing and then went to jail. But I didn't follow up on the intel. All I know is that they said she was out there selling fruit cocktail. And then she ended up somewhere in a cell. For how long? I don't know. All I know is she went missing. So I don't want to go around spreading no misinformation. Right now, I don't even know her location. Honestly, for a while, her old house was still boarded up and vacant. But even when she lived in that house, it was still vacant because her heart was always vacant. They said she was open, but she was only open to anything because nobody would listen to everything that her life was actually saying. They just left her out in the open. She only let men have her without no protection because she ain't had no protection. Nobody ever actually took the time to ask her what was missing. We all just laughed at her and watched her run around in circles like a headless chicken. Giving head, but she can't get a head. We just said she ain't had no head. Then turned around and called her a chicken head. Yeah, they might have paid her, but ain't nobody ever pay her no attention. So listen. Nobody ever really took the time to sit her down and listen. Because everybody in the neighborhood was only too busy with trying to see when it was their turn to visit. Even saying this out loud is convicting. And now that I understand how empty she was, I understand that she was already afflicted and evicted out of her own body, a victim to these streets, even before they got that eviction. She grew up with one parent, and it was just like she ain't had no parents. And given her lifestyle, the type of pain that she was dealing with was very apparent. Little boys in the hood got her calling them daddy like they was her parent. But don't let one of them get her pregnant, because that's when everybody walk away and deny that they the parent. They like, that gotta be somebody else's seed. Remember, girl, you was sharing. We just straight up treated her like a nobody. Then they went and told her that she had a nice body. And I just sat and watched her from across the street as she grew up, finding all of her self-worth in her body. I wish I would have been mature enough to tell her that God already paid for her. Girl, your life is much more pricey. So why do you devalue? I don't want to see you depreciate. I want to see someone take you and appreciate. I just want to see you be so classy that a man could never pay you no amount of money to degrade yourself for nobody. You a grade A woman, even though you let them dog you out and say that you ain't nothing but a B. She was so insecure. And that's why I always tell women that you selling yourself short if you out here showing off your body. You might not be selling it to anybody, but if you believe in self-love instead of God's love, then you can say that you only showing off for yourself all you want. But you need to be in love with God, not your own body. Eve was naked in the garden with her own husband, and she still took fig leaves and went and covered up her body. Because even in her sin, God was still trying to show you that you should always cover up something of value. And I ain't making up no excuses for her, but when you grow up in an environment with no daddy, and all you ever see is your mama with different men, this type of story is always bound to happen. But the sad story about us as men is that instead of telling stories like this, we always like to tell stories that speak down on our women. But for a woman to go downtown on a man and be known around the city for getting done dirty for a little bit of money, have you ever even stopped to think about what type of mental state she must be in? She lost, but all you care about is her location, what house she live in, so you can go and get locked in. She was over there feeling locked in, but nobody cared. She was only like 13, and we already knew about her having sex with grown men. But nobody cared enough to say you going the wrong way, young girl. For one, I was only a kid myself, and I thought being grown was cool until I grew up and looked back on it and realized how stupid all of the adults who knew about it must have been. Nobody cared about where she was going. We all used to just talk down on her instead of somebody trying to help her change her direction. She ain't no hood rat. She just a little house mouse because her parents were never there to give her any home training. They was too busy out following dreams and chasing cheese. She feeling trapped in a maze. You calling her a hood rat? But God sees her going in circles in that maze she in. And he still calls her amazing. We from the state of Michigan, inner city of Detroit, where we was dealing with a lot of voids. They call it the dirty glove. And she was never given a hand and shown the right type of love. She wasn't looking for a handout, just for someone to stick their hand out. But all every man ever did was pull his pants down. And that's where I bust down the door and come in. Cause I'm from the block too. And so I know that they might say I'm cock blocking, but every little girl like her, I write stuff like this for them. She didn't have nobody to tell her that God was holding her hand and that he wanted to be wrapped around her soul like a wedding band. Men ain't trying to marry her, so she went on her merry little way, going in circles on that merry-go-round. She ain't no Virgin Mary, and she don't know that she God's child, so she'll just give herself away to any man. And to that little girl, I know now you a grown woman, but wherever you are, I just needed to get this off my heart and tell you something. I just want to say that even though I was never one of the ones who took advantage, I'm still sorry for being too young and immature to see life from your vantage. I'm sorry for just sitting back and watching grown men take advantage. And I was just laughing. But now that I look back on it, I wish back then, I wish I knew how to say all of these things and be a man. I was just trying to be one of the boys instead of standing up for you and trying to be your friend. I wish back then I didn't care so much about looking like a sucker or one of my friends calling me a hater. I never been the type to call women out their names, but neither have I always treated women like treasure. Me and you, we live right across the street from each other, and we barely even knew each other. Because I distanced myself and said that I was better. I knew something was wrong with it, but if I be honest, of you I thought lesser. In my heart I wanted to say something, especially after they said that you might have been a victim of a molester. But I ain't even know what to say, because neither of our minds had fully developed. So I just let things fester. And I ain't no God, so I just chose to treat you like gutter. And all I can do now is promise to be a voice for all of these little girls out here who just might not know no better. I wish I could have personally helped you find God so that you could see you the way he sees you and so that you could see yourself instead of just sitting across the street and never even coming over once to offer you any help. I just watched you be lost because I was just lost myself. But now I'm writing this for all of the little girls across the world who are just like you. All of the little girls who are exploited and manipulated before they are even old enough to understand what they are supposed to do. I pray that everything that I'm doing now, the very heart that I have now, the man that I am right now, that God can take something like this and use it to help lead one of them to him. I'm sick of sitting in this world and watching all of these missing girls. I've seen so many broken women in my life. I don't care what nobody think. I just want to minister to your heart. I promise. It's coming from my heart. I'm not trying to get close to no women, none of that. So that's why I sit in front of this camera. But I've seen so many broken women in my life, from my mother to my aunts to, man, y'all don't even understand. And I ain't never did nothing to help. But I'm doing something now. And I pray that this bless somebody. I love y'all from here to heaven.